that, let's take you to the Volta region, where the Regional Security Council has shut down major markets there as part of efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19. The region has recorded 9 cases, leaving residents worried. Volta Regional Minister Dr. Archibald Lecha has been speaking on the measures the Security Council is rolling out to contain the spread of the virus on News Desk.
These decisions are taken, the assemblies have received advice from the Regional Public Health Emergency Management Committee to find a way of decongesting the market. And we suggested that they should abolish market days and open the markets on daily basis so that we don't have overcrowding on the traditional market days. So that has been done in many of our assemblies. But when it became, we heard of the cases in Lower Manya, Kobo, that is very close to the Northern district. Then we decided to close the Juapo market. We also decided to close the Kisi market, the Germany, and the markets, all the markets that are close to Northtown. Then Southtown also decided to close the Solokope market.
Okay.
Titus have also decided to do same in Aplau. And then yesterday I was informed by Central Town DC that they were also going to close the market. The whole market today is whole market day. But what has been done in whole is that we provided security. There are 20 policemen and 20 soldiers that are in the market. So there are no traders in the whole market today. It's supposed to be the traditional market day, but the chiefs with the queen mothers and all of us agree that today should be a cleanup in the market. So we have security presence in the market. So I'm surprised to hear that when it came to what is happening in Kumasi now, even though markets have been closed and the traders have come. I will speak to the DC, I'm not aware of this, and find out what consultations were done and what security arrangements were put in place to make sure that whatever they decided was enforced. I'm here to speak to the DC to find out what happened. You are just hearing it on your network. But at our level, at the regional level, we give direction to the 18 municipal and district assemblies that we have, and they are doing so well in carrying out the directives.
So from what you tell us, about 5 markets have closed down already, and a lot of restructuring in some other markets. Probably will have some other markets also closing down in the course of the week. As head of security for the region, would you recommend any form of a lockdown or some restrictions in the immediate term so you can nip this in the bud, prevent further spread of the disease?
We're going to have an emergency meeting from now, and then we will take the joint decision as the Regional Public Health Emergency Management Committee to see what recommendations we can make to government. But as of now, I am of the opinion that the measures that we put in place are okay for now. People are calling for more drastic measures. People are also advocating the closure of all the markets along the border lake. Which we were looking at. But when we considered where the EC regional cases were, they are so close to us here around the Sojamine and the Lower Manya Kobo that we think that the measures that we are taking around North Town, South Dine should be enough for now. But when it becomes necessary, and we hear of cases, let's say in the Afram Plains or the Afram Plains area, then we may have to consider movement of people from our Afram Plains to our markets along the border lake.
Now, Fred Kwame Asari reports for us from the Volta region. He joins us on the line. Fred, thanks for joining us. Give us a snapshot of what has been happening in the Volta region's markets today.
Excuse me. Like the Volta regional minister rightly said, a team of police and then military officers were deployed to the whole central market to ensure that traders and residents comply with the directive that there shouldn't be a market day today. You know who usually observe market days with 5 days interval. They have traditional market days after every 5 days. But then, following the recording of cases in the country, 2 weeks ago, the whole municipal assembly gave a directive that they shouldn't observe traditional market days in the whole municipality. So this directive, I should say, was flouted. 4 or 3 markets after the directive was issued, residents still converged at the market and then went about their usual trading activity. So to ensure that they comply with the directive, a joint military and then police team was deployed this morning to the whole central market and the whole central business district area where they would want traders to comply with the directive. I should say that buyers were mounted at about 3 entry points to the whole central business district to ensure that traders don't come and then engage in their trading activities. Also, officials from the Zoom Lion and then some other officials from the Municipal Assembly engaged in some cleanup exercise this morning to just make sure the surroundings of the market are clean.
Now, Fred, I'm looking at footage from the whole central markets that you just sent in. Deserted stalls, abandoned market. How long did the security officials plan on keeping this up?
Well, I spoke to the MCE. He mentioned that throughout today, the security officials will be there to ensure that traders don't return even after the cleanup exercise is done to engage in trading activities. But then he also mentioned that tomorrow the place will be, or the market will be open for trading activities, but just that they wouldn't allow people to congest in the market to flout the social distancing directives by the president.
Now, it's only in the Takoradi metropolis, Fred, that we realized that alternative space was given for traders and it was properly demarcated to enable social distancing. Are the authorities in Ho thinking of something like this, or they're simply asking the traders to come back and socially distance themselves at their own discretion?
Well, listening to the MCE, I don't think at the moment they are thinking of any measure of that sort. But then what he told me was that maybe officials from the assembly would be in the market to ensure that they don't congest too much in the market, and then if possible, they go by the social distancing directive. But then to relocate the market to a different place where they would maybe demarcate places and ensure that they comply with the social distancing directive, for that, at the moment, the MCE or the assembly have not stated anything on that. And
these will be security officials from the assembly at the markets tomorrow, trying to ensure that they observe social distancing.
Exactly. The minister also mentioned that they would put together, or they have put together a task force that would be going around town to ensure that taxi drivers, traders in the market, and then what have you, comply with this directive of social distancing, and then also the directive by the transport ministry that we should not speak more than, for a taxi, they shouldn't speak more than 3 passengers. That is 1 at the front and 2 at the back. And then for other vehicles, they should just comply with the directive from the transport ministry. So I should say that starting tomorrow, there will be a task force in town, especially the market centers, to ensure that traders comply with this social distancing directive to curb the spread of coronavirus. We'll
do this again tomorrow, Fred, when the measures are actually being implemented, so we can understand how it works. Thank you so much. Let's go just north of the Volta region, OT region, where our man Peter Senu has also been observing a similar process going on. Peter, thanks for joining us. Now, in the first place, what's the story from the markets at OT?
Well, as we speak, there hasn't been any confirmed case in the region yet, and so we are just moving about. Residents in the region are just moving about their normal duties, but the social distancing bit of it in the marketplaces is what is worrying, because you can still see people almost crowded during market days. Not so much of social distancing happening in the region here yet.
Peter, is there any indication from authorities that they plan to do something about this absence for the rule of social distancing?
Yes, of course, they have been, authorities, the various MDCs in the region have been moving around doing what they call risk communication, using the mobile vans and the community radio stations. But this one, we can only bring it down to individual acceptance, or so to say, of the protocol of social distancing. Individuals must take this upon themselves not to not get crowded at places, especially market days.
Now, you have been speaking to these traders and you live among these people, Peter. Is there any concern for the COVID-19 pandemic's threat in the Volta region and in the country as a whole?
Yeah, this is the OT region. Though the feeling yesterday among residents is that of nervousness, I should say. We hear relatives who are not residents in the region calling their families to ask where they are and that they shouldn't go out and that the disease is almost near, and so they should be very cautious about their movement.
Now, of course, Peter, I was asking about the Volta region because it's a neighboring region, and since there are 9 cases there, I was wondering if people in the OT region are concerned about their safety, considering how the Volta region is just a few meters below.
Yes, of course, they are concerned about their safety. Since it is just close by from the region, you see that the closest town to the Volta region you see is Hohwe. Hohwe shares close boundary with the OT region.
So, Peter, just before we go to the word from authorities of the region and of the various districts is that they are doing risk communication.
Come again, please.
I simply wanted an emphasis on that point, that authorities have chosen a path of risk communication or basically education.
Yes, the risk communication is what they tell you that do not go out, stay in your house so that we can break the chain of infection.
Right. I just wanted to get that clarity, Peter. Thank you very much. Now, still in the OT region, DCE for Nkwanta North, Mr. Jackson Jakai says measures have been put in place to reduce the numbers in some of the markets in that part of the country. Now, especially at the Jackson Passat markets, following reports the traders are not adhering to social distancing protocols. Let's hear Mr. Jakai now.
So you are moving about half of the market women to a new site.
Definitely.
How many? Do you have the figures?
In fact, this Passat market is a very huge market. In fact, there's people from the north come, the south, and everywhere, almost in Accra. So, in fact, I will not be able to be sincere with you.
But have you communicated this to the market women? And what is the plan to ensure that?
The announcement was done last week, and this week it will be done, so that we'll know next week. But we are doing a lot of begging and putting in some chips to ensure that we do that by next week. So that is the preparation it will be done. Rather than looking at the numbers, the pressure is so much. And everybody, you can't stop anybody from coming to buy whatever you want to do. But I think with the education that has gone around, everybody is now know that it's bestowed on everybody, each and every one of us, to cooperate to ensure that the social distancing principle is observed.
I'm not
so for
sure.
the numbers, I'll not be able to tell you offhand.
I'm not sure if just relocating half of the market women will necessarily result in a respect for the protocols. What exactly are you doing? I mean, reducing the number is good, but in terms of human relation and touch, have you put in place, structures that will ensure that they are spaced out properly and that they do not, come into very close contact with each other?
That's what I'm telling you. Education is key. I think the first education we did, the first announcement we did, and we have this information van that is in the market. We've also called stakeholders like market queen women, market queens, young sellers association leaders, and all those stakeholders we have in the market. And we have spoken to the leadership. However, we have a team, a monitoring team that will be in the market this week to ensure that we instill discipline and ensure that we not force, but just to educate them and let them know that it's the responsibility of everybody to ensure that whatever you are doing, you don't get very close to your neighbor.
Now, meanwhile, one of the markets supposed to have been closed is bustling with lots of business activities. This morning, Ivy Setoji has been engaging some traders. Let's listen.
I come from Adam. When I come to the market, I see that the market is so busy. But it's not so busy like last week when we came. And the market is not so lively like last market day. Today when we came, they said the market will be closed down. So we don't know. They didn't tell us that the market will be closed down. We just came before we hear that the market will be closed down. And when we came, we must be there to buy something to go to house before the market goes down. And last week we bought the Gary 8 cities. Today when we came, they said the Gary is 10 cities. And when we are going to sell it, how much can we sell it? And when we are selling 12 or 15, police said, no, we shouldn't sell it like that. So we bring to you to talk to the market women or the staff tunnel people so that they will do the thing for us, which is buy and go and sell it. My name is Grace. I come from Yes, please. It's going to affect because I didn't know that today the market will be shut down. So it will affect me. Yes, I will bring to the government so that it will give us another week so that we will come and announce to the people today that next week the market will be shut down so that we will come and buy our food. The market will be shut down. Yes. And we know, but we will talk to the people so that we will do that. We want you to talk to the people so that we do that. Announcement to go so that we will do that.
Also, there was no informed, as I said earlier, that there was closure of the market today. That is where they are. We have a young man here. What can you tell us?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Second. Actually, I would say this community is a good community. And then people around here, all areas, depend on this market to earn their daily bread. For that matter, closure of this market as every other time right now means the citizens are going to go hungry at the end of it. So I'm suggesting this and Easter Monday as well. And usually on Easter Mondays, the market exists within from 6 to 12, everything is done here. So if the press and then the other authorities could give us a piece of opportunity to move on to at least acquire some food stuff to stay indoors to use, and that would be yeah, we actually know of this, but the situation is compelling us to at least we can stop in there just because of the business. We have to get something eaten whilst we are indoors there. So at least from now to 12 o'clock to now for us to disperse from this place.
So they are asking for more time so that they can get their food stuff and other things before the market is finally closed. And for now, we are actually looking for the DC for the area, Thomas Wilson, to speak with so that he told us more about the situation of this market. The crowd here is so cute.
Setoji there. Now, Deputy Director in charge of Public Health in the Volta region, Dr. Kwesi Jokoto, has been giving us a breakdown of the first 9 cases recorded.
We have 9 positive cases in the Volta region. 6 of them were people who were quarantined after they tried to reach the borders of the country after they were closed. They were apprehended and then quarantined. So out of the 56 people who were quarantined, 6 of them turned out positive. We had one returnee coming into Ho, came into Ho 12 days ago and started showing symptoms about 3 days ago. Immediately the client was sent into isolation. The sample was taken to Noguchi and that turned out positive. The client is stable now. He's doing well. And like I mentioned, is in isolation. So there are 2 other cases in Hohoi. Both of them have returned from Accra. And in all, one is a 22-year-old pregnant woman who came back specifically to deliver here in the Volta region. Delivered, started after about a day, presented with fever and running nose and cough, which are symptoms of COVID-19. So met the case definition, samples were taken, and that turned out to be positive as well. The last case also returned from Accra and then called for help after he started experiencing those symptoms. We went through the routine as usual and took the sample and sent to Noguchi as well, and that also turned out positive. So that is a brief breakdown of the 9 cases that we have in the Volta region.
Very interesting details there, but what is the status of PPEs for your medical team in the region and the general state of preparedness? Should there be a lockdown?
Thank you. So I would want to thank all who have so far supported and supporting all the facilities with PPs, especially Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health. At present, we have PPE in all the treatment centers or case management and isolation centers. But we know that going forward, because the consumption rate is high, we expect that if we expect to get more deliveries. I know that by the end of this week or middle of this week, we are supposed to get more deliveries from the Ghana Health Service. But the individuals who can support should also continue to support, because the PPEs are still in very much in high demand. Lockdown has not been spoken about in the Volta region, but it's something that people are expecting, because cases are being recorded, especially if we get into the situation where we record community transmissions. Then that will be something that the national EOC would have to consider.
JoyNews channel, my name is Daniel Dazi. When we come back, we go to the western and eastern regions to find out the latest on their case counts and more. Stay with us. We'll be back.